Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got some brand new updates in the world of Palantir and specifically on this continuing NHS saga contract, $588 million contract. We do not have an announcement yet. We were supposed to get the announcement yesterday. We do have an update on when we're going to get the announcement, and we'll discuss all of that here today. This is the last trading day of Q3 2023. It's been one of the most emotionally unique weeks for Palantir shareholders, I think, out of the entire year. I know we've had some crazy weeks throughout the year in terms of, stock going down, stock running up to about 20 bucks. But this week has been filled with a lot. So we got to get into the updates and talk about what's going on with the NHS. Before I do that, real quick, Palantir stock action also this morning has been pretty crazy. Up 2.2% right now at $16.12. We were up $16.80 at one point, up almost 17% for the week, breaking the $16 barrier. Palantir was up 5% the day before yesterday. Then yesterday was up another 5%, now up 2%. So price action has been pretty awesome. Core PCE inflation data came out, which has been really good for the macro. But Palantir in general has performed pretty well. And one other quick update before we move on. We found a new fund that disclosed 9.8 million shares yesterday of Palantir, September 27th. There was a 12 million share buy on September 15th. This company, Carlin Scout Midcap Fund, might have been one of the funds that was behind that 12 million share print when they purchased 9.8 million shares. Now, we don't know the exact day they purchased it or when they purchased it, but we do know that they are a fund that is disclosed a 9.8 million share stake in Palantir, and it is their second largest holding, 4.5% of their fund. So very interesting stuff from that perspective. Okay, NHS Deal. Let's get into it. What's going on with the NHS? So here's the news that broke this morning. The NHS contract is delayed. The NHS contract expected to be won by Palantir is officially delayed until mid-October. So we're looking at probably another 2 weeks until they announce it. In the meantime, the NHS has announced a new project to engage with patients to educate them about how they will be using their data. So this was the article that came out. I'll leave the article in the description if you want to actually click on it, but here's a little bit from the article. NHS England officials have now delayed the announcement for the winning bidder until mid-October. The start of the competition was also delayed. Early supplier engagement over the FDP, which will follow on from the NHS's COVID data platforms run by Palantir, began in April 2022. So the article goes into the argument about how the entire process has been delayed in terms of every part of procurement, so it makes sense that the awarding of the contract is also delayed as well. The article continues to go into the company, founded by Trump backer Peter Thiel, which of course you got to throw that in there, has already become deeply involved in the NHS data strategy. And then it goes on to say how Palantir has even got to this point. A couple of quotes from some executives at the NHS. Officer Ming Tan said, "It's so important that the public are involved and able to inform and have confidence in what we are doing to improve the NHS's use of data to help save more lives. These events are all about building confidence and ensuring that the public can have a key voice in shaping the way our vital programs use data to improve patient care in the NHS." Dr. Nicola Brine, who's one of the national data guardians, also says, "And in this gap, alternative narratives can take hold, becoming a breeding ground for speculation, misinformation, and discontent. Where this discontent is not engaged with, it quickly grows into groundswells of opposition, making it more difficult to build or earn trust going forward." What she's talking about there is that if patients, average people in the UK, have a misperception of what the FDP, this new federated data platform, which is this entire $500 million contract Palantir is bidding for, is going to do with their data, it is going to be very hard for the United Kingdom and for the NHS writ large to have any type of technological transformation, because you can't really technologically transform anything if you don't have patients' data. And if patients don't trust the system that they're giving the data to, they're not forced to give the data. It is a voluntary process of consent for them to be able to say, hey, FDP, hey, NHS, you can use my data. Then if they don't give the data, the FTP is not valuable. Palantir can't really do anything, right? Palantir is not making the data. They need the data to be able to make the system more effective and better. And so at the end of the day, the article was just going into the fact that, look, if patients don't trust the NHS, it's not going to work in terms of the federated data platform. And some of the key executives at the NHS were speaking about how they need to make sure that patients understand what's going on, which is also, the second part of this article is really interesting. The NHS has launched a £2 million project to engage patients with data strategy. Now, this was really interesting to me, and then we'll get into one of the more probably harder reasons for why this contract was delayed, and then we'll end it off with something that when I saw broke this morning in terms of the news at around 10 a.m., I couldn't even believe that it was happening. So this, first of all, this £2 million strategy. I think personally, this is because Palantir has won the deal. I believe if you are launching what essentially to me, from what I'm reading, seems like an advertising campaign of how to connect with the average UK citizen and get them to understand what the FDP is going to do with their data, it seems to be that you have picked a winner already, and that winner is probably Palantir. This is my speculation. And because you're a little bit afraid, or a lot afraid, of patients giving up their right to data to the FDP, which is going to be managed by Palantir, you are now launching a £2 million advertising campaign to be able to educate those consumers on how the FDP is engaging with their data. I think it's going to be something along the lines of a lot of workshops or different, videos that they put out, or they're going to be doing, on-site training with different focus groups. So whatever they're going to be doing, they're going to be trying to get the word out there that this FDP is going to be a platform that actually helps people. It's going to be responsible for people. It's going to reduce the backlogs, the wait times. It's going to technologically change the entire socialized healthcare system that is the NHS. But patients need to be able to willingly give up their data. And if they don't feel that they can give up their data, the whole thing goes to crap. So I think that £2 million campaign is a result of them being like, hey, Palantir has a negative perception in the UK media and in, the entire UK public, even though that there's a lot of counter narratives to that. So maybe let's just launch an advertising campaign, get them to really know what Palantir is doing so we can misclear all the propaganda that has been spewed by people like Foxglove that decided to quit social media yesterday, which is very interesting. And let's, get people to understand why the FDP is important. So that was really interesting this morning. And, it definitely sheds some light on what's going on. And then we had this piece of news break. This is from Palantir Chad. Definitely recommend following him on X. Really good Twitter account when it comes to Palantir. He tweeted this yesterday around this idea that there needed to be an acquisition before Palantir could get this deal. What would the acquisition be? The acquisition would be a $1.2 billion merger of UK-based healthcare software business EMIS, which is the de facto and default software that is used to manage patient data. United Health was going to be buying it for £1.2 billion. And so he posted that yesterday in terms of that was the reason for why we're likely getting a contract delay, because until that acquisition goes through, you can't really announce who you've given the contract to. And then today, here's what we got. September 29th, 2023, the CMA has cleared a £1.2 billion data management takeover in the NHS. The CMA quelled fears of competitor access to the patient record system being restricted after an investigation. I'll also put this link in the description. But basically, the article goes over the fact of why this merger was happening. This merger was announced by the U.S. healthcare giant in December 2022, United Health. The CMA then placed the process deal into a phase 2 investigation amid competition concerns. The CMA's investigation, despite pointing towards EMIS's strong market position, found the deal does not raise competition concerns relating to the potential impact of the competitors' access to data. So you needed this deal to happen for the legacy IT to get acquired and move on, for the NHS to kind of rid themselves of this stuff, and also to transfer officially all of that data that was stuck in EMIS into the federated data platform, which likely now makes sense for why Palantir got a $30 million contract a couple months ago to help in the process of removing all the data from the legacy software into what would be the federated data platform. It didn't mean that Palantir was controlling the FDP, but it did mean that they got a contract to help the transition of data. My hypothesis was, well, if you're transitioning the data, you're likely also going to be managing the data in the new platform, but we still don't know about that yet. So that is the, those two pieces of news are the biggest pieces of news we have so far in this NHS saga. Number one is that the contract is delayed in mid-October. That is official. And the NHS has launched this advertising campaign to educate people on how the FDP is going to be interacting with their data. So it makes sense for the delay. Number two, you needed to get rid of the old legacy IT infrastructure via acquisition. That acquisition was held up in court for a couple months. And just today, September 29th, it got approved. And so once that acquisition has been approved, now you can officially move to whatever new platform is going to be used for the federated data platform, whatever new company is going to be managing it. And then that likely also justifies why they needed some more delay. So I was cool with that. I thought that made a lot of sense. I was like, you know what? That's fine. That kind of explains the delay, even though it sucks that we're seeing a delay. Hopefully we'll get the answer in 2 weeks. And then I saw this. And this is one of those things where it's just like, what do you say about this? The New York Times comes out with an article today. Let me show you the exact headline. A secretive U.S. tech firm pushes towards the heart of UK healthcare. Palantir, the analytics company chaired by Peter Thiel, has courted the NHS England with pandemic help and assertive lobbying. Its big reward may be yet to come. So I didn't get to read the entirety of the article. I skimmed through it, and I'll probably do a separate video going through the entire article. But this was really interesting as well. From the stuff I saw in the article, it did feel like a little bit of a hit piece. Two of the authors that are from London, we had someone on Twitter find a connection between one of the authors and George Soros, which of course there would be a connection between the guy who hates Palantir and the guy from London writing the New York Times article around the secretive spy tech company backed by Donald Trump supporter getting the deal. That's why I feel like it's a bit of a hit piece. Again, I got to go deeper into reading it, but from what I saw, just the title, the nature of introducing Donald Trump in the first two sentences because they know that'll trigger people, it feels as if the article is more so around the fact that there is this mega organization spy tech company that is not as big as Google, Amazon, or Facebook, or doing anything to the extent of the actual big tech companies, but they're trying to steal the data of the UK citizen. And that's kind of the ethos you got from the article. It definitely wasn't a friendly piece on all the things Palantir could do, all the technological innovation that they could do. It didn't even really cite all of the ways in which Palantir has helped a lot of different organizations in regards to healthcare. I mean, quite frankly, it was not truly, in my opinion, good investigative journalism. Nonetheless, as much as people may not read the New York Times anymore, it still gets 600 million unique hits a month to their website. So they are still one of those organizations that at the end of the day gets people to care about what they have to say, whether we like it or not, and they are able to propagandize a message. Here's my theory I came up with this morning. This may be true, this may not be true. It's just kind of what I thought randomly. This article came out September 29th. The supposed announcement of the contract was supposed to be September 28th. There is a world, and I actually do believe this because this happens a lot in regards to the media and companies. There's a world in which the NHS was like, let's not announce this because we know there's a hit piece coming out pretty soon on Palantir. And what would it be like for us to be like, we gave Palantir $500 million to go do this. And then the next day, one of the most influential media organizations in the world, again, whether you like it or not, the New York Times, puts out a hit piece on Palantir saying the company you just gave the organization to is going to steal your data. Now the title is not how Palantir is trying to bid for your data. Now the title of the article, the angle of the article is Palantir is going to steal your data, right? Because they got this contract. And then there's too much backlash. There's blow. You get the British media picking this up. A New York Times article starts going viral. And I think to some extent the NHS officials were like, let's let the article come out. Let's let it do a thing. Let's let it die in momentum. And let's do this £2 million advertising campaign around the UK citizens. And then we'll give the announcement of the contract. On top of that, the acquisition of the legacy IT infrastructure will be done. So that'll make everything come together. That's why I think we're getting the delay. Again, I still have no idea if Palantir got this deal. Maybe it didn't go to Palantir. We will see in the next couple of weeks for sure. But those are my hypothetical scenarios for why the contract is delayed and why Palantir will still probably get the deal, but it will take some time for them to get the deal. This New York Times article definitely didn't help the NHS's case if they wanted to announce it soon, because they probably don't want to be caught in the middle of a New York Times announcement that coincidentally came a day after the contract was supposed to be awarded, as if it was kind of timed for the announcement, rather to just wait, let it die down, and then release the news about Palantir. So the saga continues. It feels like we're in a movie, but what I said on the morning open stream today is that you want the tech companies that are small, that you're covering and you're shareholders of, to get into this drama, to have this type of movie, because the mainstream media hates Tesla and Amazon and Google and Facebook, and those companies have become incredibly big. And in the early days, a lot of the media was against them, and they took over their respective markets. I think, I don't see some of the other software competitors against Palantir getting this much shame by the media or being involved in this much drama. Maybe because they're not doing anything that important. And I think at the end of the day, if Palantir is doing something important, you will always have media entities trying to take you down. And that's part of the battle. That's part of the fight. And if you're able to survive that, there's hopefully going to be some awesome returns on the other side of that. So exciting week for shareholders in the world of Palantir. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next one.